In my video about the basics of pitch design, I said there are generally three forces in play: gravity, drag, and the Magnus effect. But there's actually one more. It's called seam-shifted wake. The idea is that the seams on a baseball cause the air flowing around it to act weird sometimes. When it's in the right orientation, the flow around the ball can actually be unbalanced. And when it's unbalanced, it makes the ball move. Now, the majority of the time, since the ball is spinning too quickly, this cancels out with itself and you don't actually see the ball move because of it. But on some pitches, like the knuckleball, the spin rate is low enough, you have enough time to see these imbalances and the ball will move in peculiar ways. But then again, they're random. And that's the downside of the knuckleball. The effect is random, so you can't really control it that well. But some recent research shows there may be players in the MLB right now that use this effect systematically to make the ball move in one direction. For example, Trevor Bauer's two-seam uses the effect to move horizontally, and Steven Strasburg's changeup uses the effect to move vertically. But the pitches they're throwing are still spinning a lot. How are they getting the effect from a knuckleball to a pitch that spins a lot without it canceling itself out? It's because they're aligning the ball and their spin, so as it's spinning very rapidly, a pattern in the seam persists to make the ball move despite the revolutions. One such pattern has been theorized and tested by a group on baseballaerodynamics.com. They wrote a great article, which I'll have the link to in the description, about a pitch they call the looper. The idea of the pitch is that with the right orientation and spin efficiency, a pattern will form where around one pole will be a bunch of seams clustered, and the other pole will have near none around the pole. Without going too deep into the fluid dynamics of it, this imbalance causes the ball to move away from the cluster without interfering with the Magnus effect. So, being in quarantine, I figured why not learn the pitch and show what that development process looks like. Let's go! When I'm in the usual pitch design session, I'm just trying to maximize efficiency. So I'll be using this ball, and to gauge whether it's efficient enough or not, I'll be watching it in slow motion, and if I can see either pole of rotation, then I could be doing better. However, in this case, I need to be a bit more specific because I need this pitch to be efficient and for the axis to be on the exact point I want to be. So I designed this ball that marks where the axis of rotations need to be. So now when I'm reviewing it, rather than just trying to see flashing black and white, I'm trying to see something like this, where these two sides are both black and the circles here are staying stable from the perspective of the camera. So I'm going to be setting up my camera and seeing what I can do to both stay efficient, but also stay on the right axis. I went to the first round of testing with two primary grips, my regular four-seam fastball and a pitch where I kind of spread my ring finger down and keep my middle and pointer finger tight together. Either way, I kept them lined up with the spin direction I was desiring. I threw 3 pitches with each grip, but both had the exact same problem. I was cutting the ball, meaning I was throwing it inefficiently with the spin kind of approaching that of a slider. So going into round 2, the emphasis was staying efficient, but I kept both pitches in consideration with moderate tweaks. With my natural four-seam grip, I decided to spread my fingers out a little bit and keep fingertips off the seams. This should help with efficiency, but does run a slight risk of reducing spin rate. With the other grip, I decided rather than keeping them on slightly slanted seams that kind of matched where my fingers were, to instead find a flatter seam, which again should help with my natural wrist positioning. In the second round of testing, the tight finger grip continued to struggle, while the manipulated four-seam grip showed improvement in both efficiency and getting the ball in the right orientation. Round 3 of testing, and we're going all wide no-seam grips. Let's get going. The third and final round saw more consistent spin efficiency and better spin axes, including this gem. And ultimately, that's what a good lab session looks like. It took 15 to 20 minutes, 15 to 20 pitches, didn't really tax my arm, but I got the pitch from inefficient and on the wrong axis to consistently near where I wanted it to be. Now, it may only move 10-15% of the time, but when it doesn't, it's still my regular fastball. When it does, it'll move an extra 3 to 4 inches whichever direction I want to, either kind of rising and cutting or sinking and falling away. So, I hope you learned something. Have a nice day.